Now to the Russia investigation and the first anniversary of Special Counsel Robert Mueller's appointment on Thursday. Rudy Giuliani telling NBC News the president's legal team is planning to make a little fuss about the length of the investigation. Mark that date. Let's bring in Democratic strategist Basil Smikle, former executive director of the New York State Democratic Party, and Republican strategist Lauren Zelt, managing director of FP1 Strategies. Lauren, to you first. What do you think is in the offing for this Thursday? What do you think Rudy Giuliani means by make a little fuss?
I hope he chooses not to make a fuss. I think a lot of Republicans, especially because he's still so new on the job, would prefer for he not to make a fuss and for him to just try to let the administration message this in a way that they would like to. I don't really think if he makes a fuss, it's going to help in any way.
What about, Basil, look, this conversation, this has been going on for a year around the Mueller investigation. At this point, would it be helpful to the investigation itself, take a little bit of the heat off by offering some sort of a tangible nugget as to where we stand in the investigation, if for no other reason than to sort of quell all the comments from the Trump supporters?
I think that's exactly what Rudy Giuliani is trying to do to get Mueller to show his hand, but I'm sure he's unmoved by what Rudy Giuliani is wanting to do or thinking about doing. They're going to have their own timetable. They do take a little bit of a break and try to do a little bit of a pause, not to influence elections. That was the case previously, and I'm sure they learned a lot since the Comey letter in 2016. But I'm sure they're going to work at their own pace, and we all just have to wait and see.
As the Republican here, though, Lauren, I want to ask you to look at the numbers that are put up by a recent poll, in which it shows pretty profoundly only 75% of the Republicans think that Mueller's investigation is a witch hunt. You got only 13% saying it is being legit. Flip the numbers for the Democrats. 76% say it's legitimate. 10% see it as a witch hunt. Where do you stand in this investigation? Do you see it as legitimate or not?
I personally see it as legitimate, and I think that everyone should cooperate and that we should conclude it and move on. I don't think that seeing it as legitimate also means that you think that the president did something wrong. I think that what we should do is abide, have administration officials, work with Mr. Mueller, wrap it up, and let's move on. Because there is a possibility that the president didn't do anything wrong here. But in terms of the 75% poll number, I think for a president who sometimes struggles to stay on message, I do think he's been very on message, especially on Twitter, about this being a witch hunt. And I think that's why you're seeing that in the polls.
Listen, guys, I got to ask you in terms of staying on message from this White House, which offers zero apology for just about anything with regard to those offensive remarks made by the White House staffer. And Basil, you first. How do you see the White House handling this? I mean, appropriately, they talk about the leaks. That's what they're upset about. They've gotten that out there, but they're not talking about the content.
No, it's completely inappropriate for the rest of us mortals. But for the folks in the White House, this is par for the course. And this was the fear that I had all along since Donald Trump started campaigning, that a lot of this language, a lot of this behavior becomes normalized in our discourse. And it clearly is normalized within the discourse of the White House that they can't even bring themselves to say there was something wrong about this.
Yeah. Last word to you, Lauren, on this.
Yeah, what's frustrating about this is a very common scenario in politics. Do you decide or not? Or I'm sorry, do you apologize or not? And there's always a camp that says double down, and there's always a camp that says apologize. I personally think they should just apologize and move on. This is day 3 of this news cycle. If they would have just apologized, we may have moved on already, especially in the speed that news cycles today move. But I also do think as well, John McCain is an American hero. That's it. Period.
I want to thank you both. I warned you it was going to be short and sweet during the commercial break. Basil and Lauren, good to see you both. Thank you. Still ahead, David Gura talks to Rachel Crow.